the hidden light in the shadow, why the dark chosen ones were never a mistake. You've been taught that light is good and darkness is evil. But what if I told you that this is only half the truth? What if the soul's most sacred lessons are buried not in the radiant glow of enlightenment, but in the raw, fierce silence of the dark? I am not here to comfort you. I am here to awaken you, because some of you watching this, you were not born to follow the light. You were chosen by the darkness, and not because you're cursed, but because you are meant to redeem it. I want you to take a deep breath right now. Feel it, that tension, that conflict you've always carried, that sense that you're different. You're not imagining it. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just one of the few who were chosen to walk a much harder path, a darker path, but one that holds the keys to the evolution of all of us. There are 7 types of dark chosen ones, 7 archetypes that walk among us, often misunderstood, feared, or even hated, but each of them carries a divine purpose. And if you are one of them, or if you've ever met one, then you know. Their presence changes everything. Sometimes they destroy, sometimes they heal, but they never leave things the same. And that, my friend, is not a flaw. It's a calling. The first type is the mirror. These are the ones who trigger people just by existing. When you're a mirror, people project their shadow sides onto you. They blame you, hate you, idolize you, betray you, and none of it is really about you. You reflect what they refuse to see in themselves. And it hurts, because you often feel like the villain in everyone's story. But your divine purpose isn't to be liked. It's to awaken. You walk into a room and people feel uncomfortable because you disrupt illusions. You force masks to fall off, and that's sacred work. But here's the paradox. Until you embrace being misunderstood, you will keep suffering. So ask yourself, why do you still need to be understood by people who don't even understand themselves? The second type is the destroyer. When this type awakens, their entire life collapses. Jobs disappear. Relationships shatter. Everything burns, and it feels like punishment, but it's actually purification. The destroyer clears what no longer serves, not just in their own life, but in the collective field. You may have noticed that when you leave someone's life, they go through massive changes. That's because your energy forces rebirth. You're not here to maintain the status quo. You're here to obliterate stagnation. But the danger is, if you don't destroy with consciousness, your chaos becomes self-sabotage. So the destroyer must learn sacred precision. Burn what must go, but only so something higher can rise. The third type is the exile. This is the one who's always been on the outside. Even in childhood, they felt like they didn't belong. They were the black sheep, the scapegoat, the outcast. But the exile archetype is not a punishment, it's a preparation. Exiles are stripped from the tribe so they can find the truth that the tribe has forgotten. Their loneliness is training. Their silence is sacred. They often receive visions, dreams, or downloads that others can't handle. And if you are in exile, you must stop trying to earn your place in systems that were never built to hold your soul. You're not here to fit in. You're here to remember what the rest of us forgot. Now let's talk about the Shadow Alchemist. These are the ones who've been through the darkest trauma, abuse, addiction, betrayal, even near-death experiences. And yet, instead of being broken, they transmute that pain into power. They don't just survive, they turn suffering into medicine. People are drawn to them without knowing why. It's because they radiate integration. Shadow alchemists remind us that nothing is wasted, that even the ugliest parts of our past can become sacred offerings. But here's the challenge: they often forget their own worth. They get so used to being in the dark that they deny themselves the light. If this is you, let me ask you, why do you still think healing others is more important than healing yourself? The fifth type is the trickster. Oh, these souls are misunderstood the most. They lie, they provoke, they break rules, and yet they awaken truth. Tricksters expose the hypocrisy of systems. They don't play along. They mock the sacred, but not to desecrate it, to purify it. They operate in paradox. They teach through contradiction, and often they're hated for it. But tricksters are divine disruptors. They're here to tear down false idols and sacred cows, to remind us that the universe is not a machine, it's a mystery. If you're a trickster, your power is humor, irony, and irreverence. But don't let your cynicism harden into bitterness. Keep your heart open, or your rebellion becomes just another cage. Then comes the wounded prophet. These are the ones who carry ancient wisdom, but it's buried beneath deep emotional wounds. They often feel broken, hypersensitive, or emotionally overwhelmed, but their pain is the portal. The depth of their feeling allows them to access realms others can't. They are intuitive, empathic, and often psychic, but they doubt themselves, because their trauma has taught them not to trust their own voice. But once a wounded prophet turns inward and begins the deep work, they become oracles. They start speaking truths that crack open hearts. They become the voice for those who have no voice. But they must first make peace with their own. If you're a wounded prophet, let me ask you, what would happen if you believed yourself this time? And finally, there is the silent one. This is the rarest. The silent one doesn't talk much. They watch, they feel, they absorb, and people underestimate them until they speak. And when they do, their words cut through illusion like a sword. These souls are ancient. They often don't know how to operate in this world. They feel like they came from somewhere else, and they did. Their presence alone alters the atmosphere. They often appear in pivotal moments, then disappear again. They are not here to be known. They are here to remember. If you are a silent one, your path is lonely, but it is not empty. You are the keeper of codes that have not yet been spoken. 7 types, 7 paths, and yet one purpose: to awaken the world through the darkness, not in spite of it. You see, we've been programmed to fear the dark, to demonize pain, to silence rage. But the dark chosen ones are here to reveal that darkness is not evil. It is unintegrated. It is misunderstood. It is the part of God we haven't learned to love yet. And until we do, we remain split, chasing light while rejecting half of ourselves. Maybe you've recognized yourself in one of these types, maybe in more than one. That's not a coincidence. These archetypes are not roles you play, they are frequencies you carry. And each one comes with its own wound and its own medicine. So now I ask you the deeper question: what would happen if you stopped apologizing for your darkness? What would happen if you stopped trying to be good and started being whole? You see, your purpose is not to be holy in the way the world defines it. Your purpose is to be true, to become the integration point between shadow and light. And when you do that, when you walk into the world as a fully integrated being, you don't just heal yourself, you heal everyone around you, not by preaching, but by being. Because the most powerful spiritual force is not the one who escaped the dark. It's the one who entered it, owned it, transformed it, and came back with gold. If this is resonating with you, then you're not just watching this video. You are remembering who you are. And this is just the beginning. The pain of power. Why dark chosen ones must endure before they awaken others. What no one tells you about being a dark chosen one is that before you can wield your power, you must survive it. Before you can awaken others, you must first endure the weight of your own initiation. And it is brutal. You don't get to skip the pain. You don't get to fast forward through the fire. Because your soul didn't come here to be comfortable. It came here to become capable. Capable of holding paradox. Capable of moving between dimensions. Capable of transforming poison into prophecy. And that capacity is not given. It is forged. You may have noticed that your life has always been harder than others. More betrayal, more loss, more chase. You've questioned why you were born into your family, why you were the one who had to break the cycles, why you felt everything so deeply, even when it hurt, and yet you kept going, not because you had to, but because something inside you wouldn't let you quit. That's the mark of the dark chosen one. We don't choose the path. The path chooses us. And the reason it hurts so much is because it's stretching us beyond who we think we are. It's preparing us to carry the weight of a collective wound, one that others are too afraid to even look at. But we don't just look, we become it, and then we transmute it. Let me tell you a secret. Every dark chosen one goes through a phase where they try to escape their destiny. They numb it. They deny it. They run from it. Why? Because awakening hurts. When the veil lifts, you don't just see the light. You see everything. You see the lies people live, the masks they wear, the pain they hide, and worst of all, you see your own reflection in all of it. It's terrifying and lonely. Most people don't want truth. They want comfort. And when your presence threatens that comfort, they will push you away. They'll call you too intense, too emotional, too dark, too much. And if you're not rooted in your truth yet, you'll believe them. You'll shrink. You'll silence yourself. You'll try to become what they want. But it will never feel right. Because you weren't born for comfort. You were born for clarity. This is the crucifixion of the soul before its resurrection, the breakdown before the breakthrough, the void before the vision. Every dark chosen one must descend into the underworld of their own psyche. You must meet your shame, your rage, your grief, your ancestral karma, your soul contracts. And you must do it without flinching. Why? Because the power that is trying to awaken in you is sacred, and sacred power does not awaken in the shallow. It awakens in the deep. And the deeper you go, the more you remember. Not just who you are, but who you've been. Because the dark chosen ones are not new souls. We are old. I'll see. We've done this before. In Atlantis, in Lemuria, in forgotten temples and buried civilizations. We've held this frequency for lifetimes. But in this life, we came to integrate it fully, to no longer split shadow from light, but to walk into the world as both. But here's the paradox. The more power you carry, the more pain you must transmute. This is why your life is not easy. It's not because you're cursed. It's because your soul is doing advanced level work. Most people are learning to survive. You're learning to resurrect. And that process requires death. the death of your false self, the death of your illusions, the death of who you thought you needed to be in order to be loved. So if you feel like you're dying, good. That means something deeper is being born. But don't rush it. Don't skip the underworld, because the underworld is where you collect your codes. It's where you reclaim the parts of yourself that were exiled. And only when you've gathered every fragment can you rise, not as a persona, but as a presence. You've been tested through heartbreak, abandonment, betrayal, and isolation, not because the universe is cruel, but because it is initiating you. You were never meant to be normal. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to trigger awakening just by being. But here's the hard truth. You cannot awaken what you haven't faced. You cannot liberate what you haven't loved. So stop asking why it hurts. Start asking, what is this pain trying to teach me? Because pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. Pain is the doorway. What's on the other side is power. And once you've walked through that fire, once you've wept in silence, screamed into the void, begged for the pain to end, and chosen to stay anyway, something holy happens. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop betraying yourself for approval. And in that moment, your energy shifts. People feel it. They don't know what changed, but they sense the gravity in your presence. That's your initiation bearing fruit. You become unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because you got deeper. You stop looking for saviors. You realize you are the one you've been waiting for. But now comes the next level of the path, embodiment. Because awakening is not the end, it's the beginning. The world doesn't need more awakened people hiding in caves. It needs warriors of the soul who will walk into the chaos of society and bring truth. But to do that, you must embody your darkness with reverence. Not to harm, but to heal. You must stop using your darkness against yourself. Stop calling your rage unholy. Stop calling your boundaries selfish. Stop calling your gifts dangerous. Your darkness is not the problem. Your denial of it is. So how do you embody it? You own it. You speak it. You move with it. You become unapologetically whole. You understand that your tears are sacred. Your anger is sacred. Your intuition is sacred. Your weirdness is sacred. Your silence is sacred. Your fire is sacred. And when you stop apologizing for your intensity, you give others permission to reclaim their own. That is how the world changes, not through preaching, but through presence, through modeling what wholeness looks like. Ask yourself right now, have you truly accepted your darkness? Or are you still trying to edit it into something more palatable for others? Because the world will keep demanding you dilute yourself. That's how control works. But you didn't come here to be controlled. You came here to liberate. And your liberation begins the moment you stop negotiating with your soul. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are exactly what this world needs. But first, you must see that truth for yourself. You must walk through your own fire and come out gold. You must call yourself home. And then when you've done that inner work, your presence becomes a portal. People feel safer around you, even if they don't understand why. They start crying in your arms, even if they just met you. They start questioning their life choices, their beliefs, their fears, just because you're standing in the room. That's not ego. That's frequency. That's what happens when a dark chosen one remembers who they are. They don't have to try. They just are. And that being is a transmission. So if you're still in the fire, don't give up. If you're still breaking down, don't numb it. If you're still doubting yourself, keep going. You are not lost. You are becoming. And everything you've endured is not in vain. Every scar is a map. Every wound is a portal. Every heartbreak is a key. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. Prepared to walk alone so you could learn to trust your own soul. Prepared to lose everything so you could find what's eternal. Prepared to be misunderstood so you could become undeniable. Prepared to be humbled so your power wouldn't become poison. And now it's time to rise. The return of the Dark Ones, how they change the world without saying a word. There comes a moment in every dark chosen one's journey when the storm inside begins to settle. The inner war that once raged, the fight between who you are and who the world told you to be, begins to dissolve. And in its place arises something ancient, something still, something sovereign. You no longer need to explain. You no longer need to defend. You no longer need to be seen, because you know. And that knowing speaks louder than any words ever could. This is the return, not to society, not to illusion, but to yourself. And when you return to yourself truly and completely, you begin to change the world, not by doing more, but by being more of who you are. That is the paradox the world hasn't caught up with yet. The most powerful change makers are not the loudest. They are the most rooted. When a dark chosen one reclaims their soul fully, their presence becomes a gravitational force. People start orbiting around them, not because they're flashy or charismatic, but because their energy resonates like a tuning fork, calling others into resonance with their own truth. And this is how the transformation begins, quietly, invisibly. From the inside out, you don't need to preach anymore. You don't need to prove anything. Your life becomes your message. Your energy becomes your transmission. And your silence becomes your sermon. There is no need to convince anyone, because truth, when embodied, speaks directly to the cells. It bypasses the mind. It bypasses the ego. It speaks to the soul. And that is the power you now carry. The power to awaken remembrance in others, just by existing in your wholeness. But this return is not about superiority. It's about sacred responsibility. You've walked through the fire. You've seen behind the veil. You've held hands with your own shadow. And now you are entrusted with a deeper mission, to walk among the sleeping and not fall asleep again. This is not easy. The temptation to go numb, to go silent, to go small, it never fully leaves. But now you know better. You've tasted your truth. You've seen what happens when you betray it. And you've seen what happens when you honor it. So you walk differently now. You speak with less noise but more weight. You act with less haste but more clarity. You love with less fear but more depth. You become a living ritual, a walking altar, and people can feel it. The world doesn't need more saviors. It needs more reminders. And that's what you are now, a reminder of what's real, of what's buried, of what's possible. You don't have to fix everyone. You just have to be. And in your being, you hold the field for others to meet themselves. That's why people cry around you, or confess things they've never said aloud, or feel inexplicably safe in your presence. It's not an accident. It's not just your vibe. It's your frequency. And that frequency was earned through lifetimes, through suffering, through surrender, through choosing truth over and over, even when it cost you everything, especially when it cost you everything. And now, that frequency does the work for you. No more chasing. No more striving. You've become the medicine. But here's the part no one says. Even in your return, you will still be tested. The world will still try to pull you back into roles, into labels, into expectations. People will still project onto you. Some will idolize you. Some will vilify you. But none of it is you. And you must remember this. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be true. And truth doesn't always make friends. Truth disrupts. Truth destabilizes. Truth liberates. So yes, some will reject you. Let them. Some will misunderstand you. Let them. Your job is not to be digestible. Your job is to be real. Because only the real can awaken the real in others. Do not underestimate the power of your presence. We live in a world starving for authenticity, drowning in performance, addicted to masks. And when someone walks in fully embodied, fully integrated, fully aware, they become a mirror. And most people aren't ready for what they see. But some are. And those are the ones you came for. Not the masses, not the crowd, but the few who are ready. The few who are hungry for truth. The few who are waking up in the middle of the night with questions they can't explain. The few who recognize something ancient in your eyes. You didn't come here to reach everyone. You came here to reach the ones who remember. And your presence activates their memory. So ask yourself now, not from the mind, but from the soul, am I willing to walk this path with full presence, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood, even when it costs me everything I once thought I needed? Because this path is not for the faint of heart. It demands everything, but it gives you everything too. And what it gives is not comfort. It's not ease. It's freedom. The kind of freedom that can't be bought. The kind of freedom that can't be taken. The kind of freedom that lives in your bones, in your breath, in your silence. It's the freedom of knowing who you are, why you're here, and what you're made of. And now, it's your turn to walk among us, not as a seeker, but as a lighthouse. Not as a savior, but as a signal. You don't need to shout. You don't need to convince. You don't need to shine artificially. Just be. Be the field. Be the stillness. Be the remembering. And those who are ready, they will find you. They'll arrive shaking, unsure, confused, but when they feel your presence, they will exhale. They will soften. They will break open. And in that moment, you will remember why you endured it all. Why the fire didn't kill you. Why the darkness didn't swallow you. Why the pain didn't destroy you. Because you were never meant to stay in the underworld. You were meant to return, transformed, whole, radiant in your shadow, fierce in your softness. And now it's time. Time to walk as the sacred storm you are. Not to destroy, but to wake the sleeping. Not with force, but with frequency. Not with words, but with presence. Welcome back, Dark One. The world doesn't know it yet, but it's been waiting for you.